You will see that today I'm joined by Kellie Artis. She's the COO of MILLIE, and we are going to talk all things PCS because we are in the middle of PCS season. I'm sure many of you are living a life out of boxes and suitcases right now, as am I. So this is a hot button topic for all of us. So Coffee Connection Live is just a chance for us to all catch up over coffee or your morning beverage of choice, be it tea or water or something else. No judgment here, but we are happy to have you here. Please grab a drink and join us for some conversation. We'd like you all to drop in the chat box where you're tuning from, just so we can see where everybody's coming from. And without further ado, I'd like to let Kellie introduce herself and tell us all a little bit more about herself.
Hey, you guys, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Elizabeth, for having me. This is so fun. Hopefully, as she mentioned, if you are in the middle of your PCS, you're somewhere comfortable, maybe a hotel room or a pool or something fun. If you're in the midst of your travel, if you are in the middle of a sea of boxes, our heart goes out to you. We totally know. So we'll try to make this really fun. So my name's Kellie. I am originally from South Carolina, moved all the way with the military to North Carolina. So we are stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I've kind of been here forever and ever. We've moved around a good bit. I think we've moved all total like 7 times. We always seem to find our way back to the center of the Army universe, which is Fort Bragg. I've been married for 13 years. We have a couple of kids. We have a dog. We live in a busy neighborhood, and you may hear some yard noises, and I apologize in advance if my neighbor's lawn maintenance interferes with this call, but we're going to go move through it anyway. What else? I work for MILLIE. Love what I do with our work at MILLIE. Our core mission is to help alleviate the stress of the PCS. So our entire mission is kind of oriented around helping you make smart decisions as soon as you get your orders. We don't want you waiting until the summertime or until you're traveling to try to figure out where you're going to live, because you need a roof over your head before you can consider any other of your kind of life challenges. So we want to help you do that well in advance. And we can get into all the different things that we offer and have, but I want to just say right up front, like, please make as many decisions as you can, as soon as you can. We love research, we love information, and we try to provide as much of that to you as we can. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Kellie. Well, I see someone wrote in the chat box that they're calling in from Phoenix, Arizona. Hello, West Coast, almost Western-ish. Hello, Arizona.
Oh, it's early for you.
Yes.
Morning.
Thank you for getting up early.
Yeah. My husband's
Hey,
in
Miami.
Right. Oh, lucky.
Miami's in the house.
How do you get to
Boston.
be in Miami, Elizabeth? I don't get Miami as a choice.
You gotta talk to your husband about this.
Lucky duck. Hey, Boston. Kellie, what's up?
What's up, Boston? All right, so Kellie Artis, take us back to the beginning. How did you meet your husband? How did you get guys into military life? And yeah, where are you from? How you met your spouse? And how many PCSs have you guys done?
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, from South Carolina, and did not have any sort of exposure to the military. I mean, you know, we're a patriotic family, all that good stuff, had grandparents that served. But you know, we were just kind of removed from it. We didn't have a base near us or anything like that. So it wasn't even on my radar as like a thing. And I, being such an adventurous young soul, ventured all the way across the state of South Carolina, and went to school in Charleston, South Carolina. So CFC, if any Cougars out there, holla in the comments. But there, I didn't know before I got to College of Charleston that it was like 80-90% female. So there was like no dating pool for me. And turns out, though, there is a military school. It's not really an academy, like it's not a service academy, but the Citadel is right next door. So it's sort of the cliche Charleston romance, but I met a boy from the Citadel. I was completely smitten. He was from New York. So Kellie, you'll appreciate this, being from Boston. I understand the rivalry now. My Yankee is from the city and came down to the Citadel to go to school. And yeah, kind of the rest is history. Like, you know, I always swore I was not going to do military life. I was like, I don't travel. I don't do travel. And to me, that was kind of scary. And he grew up traveling and, you know, he knew he was joining the military. I thought he was kidding. Like, I didn't think he was really that serious about it until like 5 years later when, you know, we're both out of school and he's like, hey, he'd already commissioned and he went to Korea first and did a year there and then was like, hey, come up to Fort Bragg with me. And I was like, no. But he proposed in order to get me to go, and I did. And I was pretty reluctant. Like, I it took me a while to kind of adjust to the military lifestyle and understanding that you do need people and you can't just do it all yourself. And I didn't want to be defined by his job, you know, and I still struggle with that, but it took me a minute to figure out a good compromise for me personally. And so Fort Bragg wasn't amazing for me when I first got here, but just looking back over the years, it has just grown into one of my favorite places on the planet. I love Fayetteville. I love the people. I love the city. And just using some of those like learning moments throughout, you know, our early years to now, and seeing how you can thrive in a place if you give it a chance, kind of moves a lot of what I do with Millie. So anyway, yeah, we've been married. We're going on 13. Our anniversary is next month. Probably everyone else in the military has an anniversary during the summer. So everyone out there, happy anniversary. Our kids are 9 and 7, and they've gone to all the different schools. I mean, the PCS thing that we have done, we've done since we've had the kids. So it's kind of crazy. We stayed put when it was just me and him for so many years. And then once we started having the kids, it was like, oh, now let's go and move with babies, because that's the best.
That just makes everything a little bit more complicated, doesn't it?
Always. So yeah, our first big move was California. We did Monterey, and then, which was a dream. So, you know, you folks have it figured out. Let me just say that. And then DC for a year, and now we're back at Bragg. So, oh, and we did Benning once too. Yeah. So.
Do you have any like personal horror stories from moving? Like anything that sticks out as like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we lived through that?
Yeah. Do you have a genre, like a topic, or because I could give you a whole, yeah. Okay. So my first one that comes to mind was, actually the closest move we've ever done was DC to Bragg. And it was the hardest one. It just, y'all, it all has to do with the season. And I think it sounds ridiculous, but it really is a thing. Like, you know, they know they're moving, you know, hundreds of thousands of people every summer. So to me, I'm like, I don't understand how you can tell me it's busy season and I just have to deal with it. But the reality is that it's a busy season. So they really encounter a ton of issues. But yeah, shortest move. The guy shows up to our like 5-bedroom house in Virginia, and you know, all this, we build this house because we're like, well, we're grown-ups now and we have kids and we have furniture and, you know, all this stuff. And the guy shows up in like this rental Penske truck, you know, like it's like at 7 a.m. I was like, this ain't gonna fit. Like, you're gonna have to go back and get a bigger truck. And he was like, no. Trust me. Turns out, and I sympathize with these guys, truly. He was like, I'm not going to make any money. Like, he told his guys later, like, I can't get a bigger truck because my margins will be too slim, and I won't, because he's a contract driver. Like, he didn't own a truck, or maybe that's the wrong phrase, but he didn't own his own truck. So he has to rent a truck, and that comes out of his overhead. So he has figured out the best max out way for him to make his revenue and, you know, make his time worthwhile. So he had this tiny truck, and turns out they do what's called a split shipment. So you guys brace yourselves. Ask them early. If the guy shows up with a too small a truck, you need to say, hey, is this going to be an overflow situation where they call in a secondary truck with crates on it and they put up the rest of your stuff that doesn't fit on the truck? The problem in my situation was they didn't let me choose what things I could take immediately and what things went into overflow, because overflow always goes to storage, right? So I'm in a situation where I get in my house, and the move was great. That mover was fantastic. He didn't break anything. Like, nothing was broken. The crew was awesome. We loved him. It was door to door. It's perfect. It's just the overflow thing that was killing me. So we had a frame for a bookcase and no shelves. We had a box spring, but no mattress. We had, you know, like everything they could have split, they split. So just, I called every day. And of course, like you, I worked straight through it. So I was traveling, like the minute the boxes showed up, I got on a plane to Tennessee to go to Fort Campbell for an event. And so I'm just like trying to deal with all this from afar. And like my things were in storage, like literally a mile down the road. And I'm like, I'm just going to go get my stuff. You need to release it to me. And they're like, you release all liability. If anything's broken or stolen, it's on you. And so anyway, I had to wait 8 weeks for the rest
and
of
it was right there. It was just down the road.
Right there. I could see it. I could literally see, drove past the storage place every day. So
that is so frustrating.
Yeah, it's not the worst. You know, I've heard, I mean, in our line of work, we hear a lot of stories. There was I've had families, you know, that have had their stuff in storage units, especially with Oconus moves, and like the storage facility burned to the ground and they lost literally everything, or have, you know, trucks when they're dittying, trucks stolen, you know, from parking lots where they park them overnight. So, and you know, anyway, it runs the gamut. It's just, we always, you can get really bogged down in the hard stories and the negative stories and the complaining, or you can try to find the funny and try to find the positive, commiserate together. So a lot of what we do, especially like on our social media at Millie and the groups and everything that we run, we try like, okay, we know today sucks. What can we pull from it that's good? Where's our opportunity to grow, to learn some patience, to, you know, maybe prepare, or like use our story to help somebody else not have to experience the same thing. So yeah, I could go on and on though about horror stories.
Do you have a favorite story? Do you have like a favorite PCS story that you've either heard through Millie or from your own family life? I mean, do you have like a, wow, that was an amazing PCS story?
A singular one? No, I think what I really enjoy is seeing how stressful and apprehensive someone goes into a situation. Like they've got 2 weeks notice and, you know, need to get their kids moved. They had orders to this place and then last minute got changed to this place. And oh my God, like I need an address. And, you know, like just people contact us kind of like in frantic mode, like, oh my God, what do I do? And one cool thing that we have is our network of scouts, which are all military spouses that you can reach out to and be your kind of on the ground person. So if you need somebody to hand deliver your student records to a school to be able to register your child, which is a thing. I guess some places don't take faxes or emails because, I don't know, it's 2019, whatever. So they need somebody to physically go in and hand those in. They can contact the scout and be able to do that to alleviate so much of the stress that can be like, because you have to have things in line. You have to, and not being there is so hard. So we've had people tell us that, you know, the scout went and looked at a house for them just to, you know, FaceTime tour, because the listings don't show you everything. I don't care how honest somebody is. They're never going to take a photo of like the gross stuff in the house. You know, it's just not going to happen. So you get a scout to FaceTime, and we've had people, you know, with children that are allergic to animals, and the scout walks in and she's blasted with cat urine smell. That's a very easy data point that we could pass along to help support a decision. Otherwise, that family would have moved in sight unseen and been in a situation that was not good, because guess what? You don't get paid to move out into another house. You know, like that's on you. So you're talking financial hardships, you're talking, you know, stress, health in some cases. So those are the stories that I love to see. It's like, oh my God, thank you so much. I couldn't have done this. You know, I was able to figure out my housing and then move on to figure out all the other things, right? Just because I had a scout. First step. Yeah. Otherwise, everything gets hung up on that first step. And you almost have to wait until you get there to do that one first step to be able to like move on with the rest of your life. Like, let's find a ballet studio for my daughter who's obsessed, right? Or whatever it is. You can't get there until you have your house. So those are my favorite stories.
I'm sitting here thinking, if I were in the position to use a Millie Scout, he or she would become my best friend when I got there. I would want to hug them and take them out for drinks and treat them dinner every night and just be like, thank you. Because you remind me of a story that I have. When we found out we were moving to Germany, we were living in the Fort Meade, Maryland area. And there was, I think I had joined a Facebook group for people moving to Stuttgart. And somebody else had seen that I had posted I would be moving from Fort Meade. And she contacted me and said, I'm moving to Stuttgart and I'm at Fort Meade. Let's get together for coffee. And we met one time, and I found out she'd be going like 6 weeks ahead of us. And I found out that right after she got there, like literally 3 or 4 days after she got there, was when we had to register our kids for the CDC. You know, there's this tiny don't register in person for that CDC window, you don't get a spot. And I was like, I work, I have to have childcare. I literally met this woman once for coffee, gave her power of attorney, gave her all the paperwork, and she went and registered my kids for the CDC in Germany ahead of time. And she's one of my closest friends, but I'm just thinking they establish a bond, and it's such a critical piece of your life that they're helping with. I can't imagine them getting to that place and not becoming best friends with the scout.
Oh my God. No, it happens all the time. Like, and we even have, there's a great scout story. Our scout director now ended up renting a house from one of our scouts. She didn't know it at the time, but so a lot of our scouts also happen to own properties and are, you know, military, like self-managing properties. They're not property managers for anyone else, but a lot of them typically do kind of dabble in real estate. And investments and stuff like that. So anyway, our scout director ended up finding a house in Michigan that was owned by one of our scouts in Alabama or something. And like, we have this great photo of them like hanging out, like, hey, what's up? Like they were passing, anyway. But yeah, no, it happens a lot. And so, and the one thing I'll say too, like a lot of times people can find folks that they, bond with and, can rely on in the Facebook groups, and people that'll, especially overseas, the mentor programs are still pretty, or sponsor, is it called sponsors? Those are still pretty thriving. Like those are still doing really well overseas, but we're finding that it's not as robust here. I mean, we're working, we're busy. It's not as big of a thing here in the States. So that's kind of where the scouts have stepped in. And a lot of people say like, oh, I don't want to pay a scout. My response to that is, first of all, you should want to pay a military spouse for any of her time because it's valuable, hands down across the board. However, if you have friends that you can rely on, that's fantastic. Do that. If you are willing to meet strangers in groups and rely on them to do that, that's awesome too. Do that. That's amazing. But so many people, especially some of the, I don't want to say younger, but like newer to the military folks, they don't have the networks that we kind of take for granted the farther along we get. Or maybe they're people like me. I actually would prefer to pay somebody because then it's a job, and it's not that I don't feel like I'm putting them out, or whatever it is. So it's kind of like, there's something for everyone, but I will say like, our scouts are always willing to have conversations with people and like share their expertise and their insights on an area. It just comes down to if they actually go out and do a job for you, that's when you need to hire them. But yeah, there are tons of relationships now from scouts and clients. It's great.
Awesome. I'm going to pause here and I'm going to invite everyone who's listening to write in the chat box if you have a favorite PCS story or a story of any kind of move you've done. It doesn't even have to be a military move, because I know we've all moved. We've all got some kind of either horror story or hooray story. I would love to hear from the people who are listening. So put them in the chat box and we'll call them out. And I'm sure everyone's nodding along. Yep, that happened to me. That happened to me.
Yeah.
Kelly,
I feel like that. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like the mishap stories always rise to the top a little sooner, but
always. They're way more dramatic.
They're way more accessible.
How has the PCS game changed since you first became a military spouse and now you're sort of in all of it with Millie? How have you seen it change, for better or for worse?
Well, yeah, I think honestly, the most change that we're seeing is happening now. Like we're kind of in the middle of a shift, given all of I feel like things have kind of culminated, right? So if you think about it, so I joined, my husband has been in since 2006 or so. We didn't deal with PCSing because we were dealing with deployments, like lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of deployments. So, and just given where he was, like, he's here, there's tons of units here. We were kind of here. So we didn't move a lot. So I actually didn't really realize that this was a hardship until, like I said, like 8 years or so ago when we started moving with our family. And those moves were exciting, but it was less stressful than the deployments. So it was all kind of relative for me personally. So not to speak to the industry as a whole, but I wonder if maybe there's just more volume of people moving now because there are less deployments. Clearly there are still deployments. We know there's still tons of people serving overseas, but I feel like it's becoming more of like a downtime sort of military where we are moving. And now we're all like, oh, whoa, this system is not okay. Like it's not working well. But lately, we've seen a ton of movement in the reform space because it's not working. It's not moving well. We can't have so many people have their stuff just trashed. And I mean, we like to say like, it's almost like a normalized hardship that we're finally kind of sick of. Like there's no reason for it not to work better. We understand that summer is a great time to move people, but do we really have to move people every 2 years? Is it possible we could figure something else out especially for the vast array of people that don't want to move every 2 years, but they're told you have to for career progression? It's like, well, actually, if I weren't looked down upon or stigmatized for wanting to stay in one place, I'd probably like to stay in one place, and then we can talk about spouse employment and entrepreneurship and all these other things that kind of all feed off the same problem. And then as far as like, 70% of people live off the installation now, as opposed to, however long ago, like this isn't a 1950s army. So that's a huge reinvention. we don't rely on the installations for the things that we used to, because we have the world open to us now. You know, where spouses are wanting to work, children are wanting to go to the schools in the community for all sorts of reasons, in some places. And then, and we're also have the internet. So we're able to do this research. We're not just walking in, like it literally used to be, you get orders and you wait and your people come and pack your stuff. And then you go and you show up to the housing office or duty station and they say, okay, you're in house number 6. And you go and you move your stuff into that house or that, whatever. And then that's just where you live. And then your kids go to that school and you don't need childcare because you're not working and, all this stuff. Well, now there's so many other things that we have to contend with. And we don't necessarily want to always live on base, or we can't live on base because there's an 8-month housing list or wait list. Yes. Not to mention childcare, not to mention schools, not to mention where you're going to work. So the internet has been wonderful for equipping and empowering families to be able to do all this research, learn about the areas, connect with people in a way that has never been done before. I mean, these Facebook groups are like where it's at. You can ask any question imaginable. You have to sift through some of the noise because, like we said, the mishaps rise to the top, right? So you kind of have to read between the lines sometimes about what people are saying. But I think we have a lot more at our fingertips now, which is, I think, a good thing. But it can be overwhelming. So learning how to navigate all of the resources smartly and efficiently is huge. So
you guys, clearly Kellie is like an expert on moving. She knows the system. She knows to do it the right way. So if you have any questions, make sure you're typing them in the Q&A box, because at the end of our catching up, we will acknowledge all the Q&As in there, and Kellie can answer all your PCS questions.
So I would actually love to kind of poll the audience. So if you guys are watching and you have a move coming up, or maybe you're in the midst of the move, I wonder this year, after seeing some of the movement in the reform space and like the just social media chatter, is anyone considering a Diddy move, a do-it-yourself move this year? Or maybe for their next PCS, they've kind of been witnessing all of this, the talk of how moves are going. Is anyone witnessing that and saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to do a Diddy this year? Because we find that people are very strongly rooted in like Camp Diddy or Camp Do It All For Me. But I'm wondering if there's not going to be a shift, given how complicated the moves are going. And then they're talking about doing a single move manager, which is essentially privatizing the moves, the relocation process, the way that housing was privatized. And there's obviously some concerns around that. So I'm curious, if throw in the comments, you guys, if you're going to Diddy this year or not.
Such a good question.
Yeah.
I would say, along the lines of what has changed and being in the middle of a PCS, a big thing that I noticed was different with our move this year. And again, we moved a year ago, and then 2 years before that, and 2 years before that, and 2 years before that. We didn't get the colored stickers this year with the box number on them. Our movers
I'll send you
a scanner. No more. That was no more. Everything got, I'm looking around at all my furniture to see if I can grab one. Everything got a barcode sticker. I'm gonna grab one. Just a minute. It's right here.
Very cool.
So
they have little handheld scanners. Are they scanning them?
The truck driver had a scanner. So you no longer have to sit with this giant manifest of all your stuff. And when they come in the door on the move, box 155, and you're like, 155, okay, that's master bedroom. And okay, 116, that's the kids' bathroom. Like,
yeah.
Comes off the truck and they scan it, and they immediately can see on there, okay, that came from the master bedroom, and it goes. It was so much faster on the offloading process. But my the colored stickers, Mom, which color did we get this time?
Aww.
Yellow and orange and red.
Elizabeth, I'll send you a roll. We buy these for fun. That's great. And you know what would be awesome and the next level is if they create an app that you can access as a user to be able to see where your things are on the road. Like, where are my things? Where are my boxes? Where is box 72? Because it had this heirloom in it, and, like, put it, you don't have to necessarily GPS track it, but UPS does it. They scan it every single stop. So
yep.
That's cool. That's cool.
Such a good idea. Anybody from TMO watching, take it to heart. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've moved to a duty station, and I hear from people who've been there maybe 3, 4, 5 months. I hate it here. There's nothing to do. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for people who are viewing and listening on how to best explore their next duty station or their current duty station? Maybe they have yet to get. What are some initial steps that you would suggest they take?
Okay, well, shamelessly, I'm going to tell you to go to gomillie.com because we have a ton of stuff like that. So we actually, we held focus groups to do all of our content, to write our base guides. So we have installation guides that you can go and check out. And again, these are guides intended to be used before you move. So you're acclimating yourself to where you're headed to. So we're going to tell you things like you're going to need to buy a snow shovel and boots that are, rated for -20 or whatever if you're headed to Alaska. Like, we're going to tell you things like that you don't want to get like slapped in the face with when you arrive. So we want you to have your culture shock moment at home where you're comfortable and still have your things and still have some sort of comfort and permanence to your life. And then we deal with that later. So check out our website and get sort of like the big tips, right? The next things that we always tell people to do is look up local events, right? Go ahead, go through Facebook. Has a great, robust events tab tool. If you guys are on, you don't have to be on Facebook, but Facebook's cool for this. Google, I think, does the same thing. You can look up local events. Go ahead and start going to those events. Get them on your calendar. Give yourself somewhere to go. Plan a couple of day trips for like the week after your boxes show up. Take a break. Get out of your house. Just get out. Start meeting people. Start getting some friends for your kids. Start looking up like hiking trails if you're into outdoorsy stuff. If you're into antique shopping, find the nearest, picker station kind of place. There's pretty much, I would venture to say, almost anywhere in the States, you could probably find somewhere within an hour or so's drive that might pique your interest. So find those things, again, while you're still at your current duty station. Don't wait until you get there and you're stressed out and you're looking at boxes and you're just, you don't know anybody and you're lonely and you're sad because all your friends are left behind. Do it before. Go ahead and start pre-populating your calendars with stuff to do. Some really great resources for that are your local Chamber of Commerce. It'll give you kind of like all of your small businesses, your shopping sort of options, restaurants, things like that. Your local visitor center, they're called CVBs, Convention or Visitors Bureaus. Those folks are fantastic. We've gotten plugged in here with, there's a local bloggers group here that we have somehow fallen in with, and they're just amazing because they're trying to attract people to come to Fayetteville. So they know everything to do. Like, they're like a gold mine of, it's tourism, but think about it. You're a tourist probably for the whole time you're there, truthfully. So act like a tourist. Go and dig up what there is to see. Treat it like a vacation when you first get there, and again, just find things to do. Another cool little tip that I love doing, and this is a little nuanced, but ask around if there are any local photographers. Military spouses love photography, right? So it's a very cool thing. Go ahead and ask in your groups, who are the local photographers, or, just Google search who's out there. And then if you go to their Instagram pages, they're going to be posting all kinds of awesomeness, whether it's restaurants, whether it's outdoor stuff where they do their fun little, Christmas shoots or whatever, or maybe it's like an epic waterfall hidden back in they seek that stuff out because that's their livelihood. That's where they find their inspiration. And I think that's one of the coolest ways to be able to start discovering your area before you get there, actually seeing it through someone else's eyes. And then you can go find the place and try to duplicate the photos. It's always a fun little adventure.
That is such good advice. I never thought about that, but as you're saying it, I'm sort of going through when we first got to Germany. I remember seeing all these professional photos on Instagram and thinking, that place is gorgeous. I need to find out. That place is gorgeous. That's yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you why we know this is because we hired military spouse photographers to do all of our photography on the website and the base guide. So everything that you're seeing literally through the lens of a military spouse. So it's her perspective, his perspective on what there is, because we literally just said, like, I didn't send shot lists to someone at, Naval Station San Diego or whatever. I said, hey, you tell me what it looks like to live there and send it back. And we tried to give as little guidance as possible because we truly wanted to know, not only in words, what is there to do, where are the neighborhoods, whatever. We wanted to see what people think that it feels like to live there. So I kind of, I cheated a little bit on that one, but yeah, we love, and that's how I found some of them with Instagram. Like, okay, you guys are amazing. So
I like that. Okay. Now, families with kids, when you have just a military couple moving, it's fun. You go out and explore. You wake up one day and let's go explore this. Do you have any tips for people with younger kids? And it's maybe hard to get them excited about, let's go hike in a field today or something. How do you suggest they get their kids excited about a new place?
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say the first thing I would do is find a sitter. So, but that's me being like, I don't want to deal with it. That's probably not the best parenting nugget, but Self-care is important. Date nights are important.
That's right.
You're so funny. You're like, how do we involve the kids? I'm like, how do we not involve the kids? But to that point, go on like Sitter City or care.com, one of those places. I always have like 4 or 5 sitters that I've already at least kind of soft interviewed before I get to a place. Because there's nothing like finding something you want to do, but then feeling like you can't go because you don't have a sitter. And you're not near family. You don't have grandma that can come over, or you don't have the network just yet, probably, to be able to kind of, swap kids off at other people's houses. So again, it's everything else. While I am still here before I move away and all my life is in shambles, I've got my planner, my date book, my contact list, and I start calling and lining up sitters. Also, if I'm trying to work at my next duty station, I don't need to get smacked with a question of, which is, we can talk later about whether or not it's ethical to ask, but what are you going to do if your husband deploys and you don't have childcare? Or what if you do if your spouse deploys? Well, I've already got 3 sitters on standby. Next question. You know what I mean? Like just having that sort of like prepared in advance is I think really helpful. But as far as involving your kids, oh my gosh, can I share your tip? Because I love your tip.
Absolutely.
I loved what you said the other week during one of our chats over on Millie about letting your kids kind of decorate their boxes. I love that. And my kids have kind of maybe done it a little bit, but it was never like an intentional project. Like, hey, and I saw someone posted a photo the other day of their child, like hugging the box that the dolls are in, like, I know, like, I hope you see that box again. But like we did with our kids, we're like, packing like animals that were friends together, and making sure they were comfy and they're going on an adventure and blah, blah, blah. So we try to encourage them. There's tons of books out there that'll help you kind of walk kids through the moving process. And I mean, if you've been in this lifestyle for any kind of length of time, they've said goodbye to people. So they know it's kind of a normal thing to do. So I don't think it's as shocking. I think it's probably harder when they get older, and we're not quite there yet. And this summer, my daughter said goodbye to a couple of really good friends, and that was tough. But technology, once again, so they're on FaceTime Messenger. They don't have social media, but they can do like Kids Messenger, and they can, pen pal digitally now and send texts and photos and, postcards and things like that. So just keeping them connected, and then also making sure that they have a healthy mindset about it. So our very first move, I got really sad. I mean, I was sad, and my daughter was like 4, and she just did what I did. So she was sad. Instead of looking back, I probably should have not shown her all of that and been so transparent with her. And so now we look at it as the opportunity to make so many more friends. We are so lucky to have this chance to be able to meet so many cool people, because otherwise we just have the same friends forever and ever, which is fine, but not as great.
We want them to look at the bigger picture, right?
The bigger picture, yeah. And you didn't lose that friend; you just get to make more. And so, and we've been here for 3 years now, and my youngest is like, "Hey, when are we moving? Like, I'm ready. Isn't it time? Like, we should be going somewhere new by now."
She's getting stir crazy, Kelly.
Yeah. Welcome to Fort Bragg. This is your life.
My daughters are going to learn what a pen pal is, because we said goodbye to friends in Alabama when we left last month. And I said to their mom on the way out, "Well, you have Facebook, right?" And she goes, "Oh no, we don't do social media, but my kids are excellent pen pals."
Aww.
Well, my first grader's handwriting is kind of atrocious right now, but we're going to work on it, and we are going to become pen pals. And she's going to learn about the old-fashioned writing letters.
I love it.
There's something so beautiful about receiving a handwritten letter.
There really is. And to your point, my son's handwriting is not good at all. And this is a great way for him, because he doesn't want to sit and practice. He doesn't want to do his sentences. But when I'm like, "Hey, sweetie, you could write a letter to your pal so-and-so," and he was like, "Oh, I haven't been able to tell him about blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh, yay, let's write it down." Let's send him a letter. And they send like rocks and like pressed flowers from the garden. Like, we've gotten stuff like that from friends who they're like, "Hey, we're in this new place. Check out this really strange flower we just found." And the kids just love it because it's something they can touch. And yeah, it's great. So there's tons of stuff like that to do. And I'm sure people that are watching have awesome advice too. So you guys should totally throw your tips in the comments so we can see them.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that. Tell us how you get your kids adjusted, how you help them with saying goodbye to friends and new schools and making friends. That's certainly something that we're working towards right now? Do you put
Yeah.
summer camp? Do you join the local pool? Do you take around the block every night and try to meet the neighbors? Like, how do you, and I'm personally looking for suggestions here right now.
Yeah.
How do you get your kids adjusted and making friends before the school year starts?
I tell you what, it's popsicles, man. Like, California, we moved to California. We didn't know anybody. And I was working from home. So I was kind of stuck in we knew a few people because we just previous duty stations, but I was working at home and kind of stuck in my little bubble and didn't have the luxury of walking out and going to the park every couple hours. And because that's how you meet people. You got to get outside. You guys get outside.
Absolutely.
Your house. But, my daughter was like, oh, I'm bored, whatever. Can I have a popsicle? I was like, you know what? Let's have popsicles. We just sat on the porch with a couple of popsicles. Kids started coming out the millwork. It was like flies to honey. Now it was a base housing neighborhood, so it was a little, a little more free range than where we are now. But kids started coming out of nowhere, and I was like, okay, cool. This must be how you do this. And then we had this blow up little jumpy house thing, like a cheap one when they were little. And so then we'd set that up in the front yard, and it would like lure more kids.
That's awesome.
For their kids. And we get to talking, and sure enough, popsicles on the porch turned into a bonfire. And we didn't go to bed until like 1 a.m. that morning because we had so much fun with all these new friends. It just drew everyone out. So it's little things. It's just being outside. And I'm outgoing online, but in real life, this is not usually how I roll. Yeah, exactly. I love this. Like, I have this barrier. It's great. But, but you have to be out there. Look around, look up from your phone, be in the world, and kids are friend bait. I mean, let's be real. Like, they're the best.
Absolutely.
So,
dogs too. Dogs too.
Dogs are good. So I just send them like, hey, that looks like a cool kid. Her mom seems fun. Go talk to that kid, So, yeah.
Yes. When it's so much easier to just stay home and unpack boxes and play with your things that are familiar when you're in this scary new neighborhood. We're sending our kids out to camps and schools and parks, and we're like, go.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a life lesson in there for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's pull this back to Millie. I want to make sure what she's doing to help people with their PCSs. So you've told us about Scouts. Tell us more about what people can find on your website and what your services offer.
Okay, yeah. So the first thing, and we kind of have this PCS timeline, right? So we know what you're going through. We know your path. Most moves happen in the summer, not all of them, but let's just pretend like, we're talking about a summer move. So hopefully back in the spring, well, even farther back than that, like maybe even January, you probably knew that you were going to get orders this year. Like, you're coming up on them, and you're probably going to move. I think the Air Force calls it vulnerable to move, which is, I just think that's adorable. The Army's like, I could be wrong, and Air Force people, don't be mad at me. But we had a colleague, one of our team members once say, we're vulnerable to move this year. We're like, what are you saying? Anyway, so you can come to the site. You probably know a handful of places that you're likely to get orders or get stationed to or at. Come to the site, just start kind of browsing, look at the photos, look at what's going on in the places, look at, the commute times, what are the different areas called, start joining the Facebook groups, that sort of thing. Once you actually get your orders, you can start making decisions, right? You have to have your orders first. You guys don't make moves until you have your orders. Once you have those orders, you need to decide, okay, based on where we are, based on some of the information you can find on the site, on the installation guides, you can then say, okay, we're going to live on post or off, or on base or off, and if we're going to live off the installation, which again, most people do, are we going to rent or are we going to buy? Talk to people. We actually have a really cool Facebook group now, not to keep plugging all the things, but you guys can find it if you want. You can ask these sort of questions like, hey, we're headed to XYZ installation. What do you think? Do you think we should buy? Should we, it's not necessarily market advice, but you can get an idea of what most people do. Like, oh, if you're coming here, you're probably only going to be here for 1 year. Maybe it's not a good idea to buy, whatever. So you can, ask those questions, tap into those resources. If you're renting, the Scouts are a phenomenal resource. So you can hire them to kind of be your boots on the ground. If you are looking at buying a house, either as an investment or you're going to settle there maybe, or whatever it is, or maybe you will just buy it for a few years and sell it, our agent heroes. So this is a network of military, spouse, and veteran real estate agents. The number one criteria that we have set to be a part of our network is that they have to have actually PCS'd and served in some way. So that is veterans and military spouses. And we are adamant about that. We know that there are tons of great networks and tons of great realtors out there that are excited about helping military families, and that's fantastic. we just wanted to stand apart and say, not only give back to our family and give them clients and leads and a source of income for military spouse agents that have to pack up their book every 3 years and start from scratch. We wanted to be able to be a source for them. And then also we vet them pretty thoroughly. They have to have been in business for 5 years. They have to do a certain volume of transactions. Like, this has to be their main thing, not just kind of like, we want them to be available for you more than anything. Cause we've heard, again, we hear all the horror stories. We've heard stories of, people trying to reach out to agents that they don't contact them back, or they're on vacation, or they don't understand our lifestyle. They don't understand our timeline and our challenges. And we don't want to have to tell them. We don't have time. Like, we don't have time to get into all the reasons why, like, I can't come see the house. You're going to have to do a virtual tour. And some people get uneasy with that. And they're like, but this is a big decision. Military folks are like, all right, done. Let's do this. This is what you need to see. This is what you need to do. You need to rent. You need, maybe buying isn't a good thing for you right now because you're going to have to turn around and move in 3 years. And our agents are going to be able to tell you that. So agent heroes, if you're looking for a real estate agent, they're trusted, they're vetted, they're part of our network, they're part of our community. Okay, what else? We have the group, our Facebook page. I love our Facebook page. We do these really fun chats called Bayside Chats. So it's like a play on Fireside Chats. I don't know if you know this. I may have explained it earlier, but Theodore Roosevelt used to do these things called Fireside Chats. And there was this radio show that essentially the country was kind of in a little bit of upheaval. There was a lot going on with wars and economy and all sorts of things. And he was using a new form of media, which was the radio at that time, and then emerging media, which was television, to do these conversations where the American public got to just hear a voice of calm and someone in, a leadership position that's kind of overseeing and not necessarily experience some of the micro stresses, but just kind of there as a voice of calm, to be able to just give people, okay, we're going to be okay. So that was kind of the inspiration. We're not claiming to be Theodore Roosevelt or anything like that, but we just want people to see what it's like at another duty station. We want them to see an example of someone who's thriving at another duty station. So when we chatted earlier, not only were you about to go on a PCS, about to embark on your PCS, but you were able to share all of your insights, all of your knowledge. Like, yeah, I was apprehensive to move to this place, but here's all the greatness that can be found here. This is how to do this station well. And look, I'm doing okay. And if you have questions, hey, I'm right here. Reach out, let me know. So it's able to just kind of breathe some calm into the chaos. So anyway, we do those live in our Facebook group. We publish them after the fact. So we have an archive over on our YouTube channel. So you can find the whole library there. We've got almost 30 duty stations covered now. And they're just surface level chats, just like this. We're not going to help you make an exact decision on where you're going to live, but we're going to introduce you to what's available, what the resources are, and just, again, give you a minute to get your bearings and then start making smart decisions. So
awesome. So many great things available.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. All right. So through your Facebook page, you have a lot of insight to things, particularly spouse employment options. And we have a question in the chat box from Kelly who said, I do employment for veterans, military, and spouses. Any advice for ideas on jobs besides the MSEP? What jobs work for the PCSing spouse? So what thoughts do you have?
Oh my gosh. Well, my first thought is we are great friends and partners with the Military Spouse Professional Network that Hiring Our Heroes has. So it's a U.S. Chambers Foundation's initiative, and you guys have probably seen them, and they have chapters everywhere. So these are local in-person meetups that you can join with like-minded professional spouses who are, career seeking, and maybe they're on a trajectory like in a certain industry, be it, or maybe they're dealing with licensing issues, right? Because we all know that's an issue. So you've got, nurses and teachers and lawyers and all this stuff. Join up with those networks and be sure to connect with someone that's in the area that has the professional network. They bring in local organizations that are hiring. They'll post all the time, their positions available and whatnot. I would also say to look up some of the Google resources. Have you guys checked into the Grow with Google stuff that's happening? Okay. Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. So y'all, we've become an official partner because I want to start to bring some of the resources to our Scout network. So our Scouts are, standing by to help military families they're not working tons. It's kind of a side gig. It's like a sharing economy sort of thing. You don't Uber all the time, right? But in exchange for their, eagerness to help us, we wanted to be able to offer some professional development resources as we find them. So we've become an official Google partner to be able to share some of their resources within our Scout network. So they have stuff like job search capability that will you can like filter in for remote work opportunities. Danielle, I will send you links. I don't know, you may not have these, but it's Grow with Google. And they have a whole military spouse sort of tab where they've sectioned out ways that you can utilize their resources, but you can self-select into remote opportunities. You can look for veteran-owned businesses, things like that, which is kind of cool. And then they also have tons of like e-learning opportunities. Oh my God. And then LinkedIn, you guys get your LinkedIn profiles, your premium LinkedIn. So that's through an MSEP program too. There you go, Danielle, you're awesome. So get your free premium LinkedIn. You'd be surprised. So there are tons of, there's like LinkedIn learning that you can do to help you kind of beef up and pimp out your LinkedIn profile. Folks like Hiring Our Heroes do workshops on how to, max out your profile if you're job seeking. Again, this is stuff that you need to be doing before you move, because you're not going to think about it until after the dust settles, which could be months into once you've already gotten there. So do all this on the front end. But yeah, I've been working remotely for almost 10 years. It's really the only thing that I found to be a good fit for this lifestyle and personally for me. So I would highly advise doing that. But the one caveat, working remotely doesn't mean that you don't have to pay for childcare.
Yes.
Okay, because I think I see a lot of conversations in some of the groups like, hey, I want to work from home because I don't want to pay for a daycare or sitter. Like, I want to stay home with my kids. Well, you either stay home with your kids or you work from home. It's not the same thing. So
you cannot do both.
I just want to throw that out there. Yeah.
Does everyone remember seeing the viral clip from like a year or two ago of the guy who was doing the CNN interview about North Korea, and he had a nanny home with his kids?
Yeah.
And still came storming in. I think about it almost daily.
Yeah. But did you see the spoof they did on that with a mom working, and she's got a baby, she's diffusing a bomb, she was like doing all this other stuff and never skipped a beat on her webinar, like her call.
I love it.
Like she was doing and that's literally like I was on a call the other day and one of my kids were like under the table because it's summer and we're struggling.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, but
so
life goes on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it's so true. Sometimes you can just keep on going and not miss a beat, and they're behind you making faces that speak from personal experience.
Yep, it happens.
You just keep doing it. We're able to tune it out. Well, we've reached the Q&A portion of our Coffee Connection Live. If anybody has questions, please drop them in the Q&A box or throw them in the chat box if you need to. We're paying attention to it now. I haven't been totally monitoring it, but I have it up now. So if there are any questions for Kelly about Millie, about PCSing, about those cute little colorful stickers that she's got on a roll.
Yeah. Okay, well, now I have to tell you what they're for. So we used to go to these events. I don't know if anybody's ever been to a Mill Spouse Fest event. Anyway, we would go to them, and we were trying to think of fun icebreakers at the table. And we came up with something called PCS rank. And I know it's silly, but hear me out. So we would ask people, hey, how many times have you PCS? Because you don't want people to come to your table and you automatically give the spiel of what you're selling or doing, right? So we're like, how many times have you PCS? And everybody would go, like, nobody has that number like ready, right? So they're all thinking, and they're like, oh, does it count when I was a kid? Whatever. So they give us a number. Usually it's like we had somebody with like 30 once.
Oh my gosh.
But we give you one of these little stickers per PCS. So they would wear them on their shirt. And what was really cool is then people would come up to our table like, I want my stickers. From so people were coming to our table just because they wanted, like, you gotta like, oh, I've got more than that, or like, I want to wear my rank. Where it was such a fun icebreaker, and our whole thing was like, most people cringe when they see these, and it's almost like a trigger. Yes. And I love how people have turned them into Christmas ornaments or collect them on the back of a piece of furniture. I've seen that. But our whole thing was like, we want to make this a fun thing. Like, let's, again, back to our mantra, like, find the positive. There's no changing it. You got to go through it. So let's go ahead and like swallow that and figure out how to make the best of it. So we came up with a fun little game that hopefully put a smile on a couple of faces.
I love it. And you can wear them as a badge of honor, sort of like your certification Members dress uniform with all.
Exactly. Yep.
I love it.
Exactly. And people did like, and honestly, it got kind of funny because some people were like coming up and telling me like, I saw a woman over there with X mini and there's no way. And I'm like, listen, there's no prize. Like, there's no.
We're not here to call each other out.
And I'm going to go with it because I'm not going to, I was like, I'm going to argue with her. Like, no, I'm going to take that off. Like, stolen valor. Come on. Yeah.
Prove it. All right. We have another question in the chat box. Shanna wants to know, how do you guys decide which base guides to publish next? That's a great question.
That is an awesome question. And I'm going to tell you, Shanna, so everything we do, we use data and we use research, and we want to be the best stewards of the resources that we have to be able to help as many people as possible. So the way that we actually determined like which guides to initially produce, because it was an endeavor. I mean, we hired / compensated over 500 military spouses to build the library that we have to date. We did it in 13 months. It was that's all I did for a solid year. I used to laugh. Like I'd barely even come out for our like team meetings because I'd be in my dungeon, like writing, like, and like sitting there. But we compensated our focus group participants. We compensated our photographers. We compensated everyone. So it was an expensive endeavor and project. But what we did was we actually kind of zoomed out and looked at all of the duty stations. CONUS, we did all CONUS, or no, just stateside. So we've got Alaska, but we did all of the stateside bases, and we started prioritizing based on how many active duty sponsors are at each installation and assigned to each installation. So then we were able to determine what the top markets were based on how many people are there coming and going, how many people are there. So we have over 70 installation guides, actually we might be up to 80 now, on the website across all branches of service. It didn't, we were nondescript in that way. Even the Coast Guard, we got you guys represented a little on our site. But within our 70-ish, 80 bases, we have been able to cover 85% of the active duty military population. Wow. So chances are there's something for you on the website. So even though I know we don't have some of the smaller bases, and we'll work on that. We are working on that actually currently. But again, it all goes back to where the needs are. And at this point, it's who's requesting it, who needs it, because right now we can send people out. Weather dictates a lot of it too. It's hard to get photos of Seattle area, Tacoma when it's raining. So we have to be very conscious of things like that. But yeah, so we put a lot of thought into it, and we refresh them annually as well. So that's another consideration. So even though we built them out, we still put a lot of time and effort into making sure that they're current. So that's reaching back out to all the networks in those areas and kind of re-engaging those folks. So yeah, great question.
Does your website have a way for people to submit feedback? Like if somebody's on your website and is like, I don't see this space, are you working on something for this location?
We get messages a lot, which is great. And I have a spreadsheet that I've cataloged, who's where. And what's cool is it's not so much, I don't see my base, like snarky. It's, I don't see this base. Can I help you? Which is so fun. So what I do is I take that person's information and I'm like, yes, because what we do is we hire people to be we call them collectors. So we hire collectors at each installation, and they're the ones that organize. I don't have a network in the Air Force, so I hire a rock star military spouse. Typically there are scouts because they're already there. But if it's somebody just kind of randomly reaching out, we'll hire them to be our collector and sort of organize our group that we need, our kind of core people. And then we just take it from there. So it's a pretty cool thing. We haven't been in full swing with the build, like a content build, in a while. But it was really fun. We had I geek out because I had the biggest spreadsheet you can imagine. It was like this flow chart because we had to stack them and stagger, different it was crazy, but it was really fun. It was so cool to meet so many awesome people. And, and could care less if they were compensated, but we were just so adamant about no, you're not volunteering your time. We value you and we value your insights. So
that's amazing. Now, are you guys just in CONUS, or do you have Scouts OCONUS as well?
Well, so, that's a status of forces agreement conversation.
So
I
fun.
know. Well, okay, to answer your question, no. Right now, we have CONUS states covered for Scouts, and then Hawaii. We have Scouts in Hawaii. We actually don't have Scouts in Alaska. We're still working with their governing bodies there. through a couple of things, but we have base guides up there. I know it's a conversation for another day, but
we'll get more coffee.
Yeah, totally. I want like some legislators while we're sitting here. Anyway, sorry. We have people, like we have scouts that have PCS overseas, especially, Germany, Italy, places like that. And they stay in touch and they're always helpful and super awesome in the groups and the chats and everything. And they have a job when they come back, like they can continue to scout when they come back. But right now we just haven't ventured out that far. We just haven't had the resources to really, really dig into it and look into it. Plus, as I mentioned before, the mentor and sponsorship program is still pretty vibrant and working well overseas. So we don't want to step on something that's already set up and a good resource. We don't want to distract from that if we don't have to. So
absolutely.
And we truly haven't seen a huge need for that. So yeah, we're stateside mostly.
And you guys have so much to cover in the States. It's not like you're just over here.
Yeah. And we probably have, I don't know if we have a scout at every duty station. I think we're up to 130 scouts. We double up coverage in a lot of areas just because, like the DC metro area, I think we have 5 scouts because each one can take one little pocket, of an area, because how traffic and everything is. So we have to consider all of that when we're hiring scouts. And we want to make sure that, if someone is on vacation or PCSing, they don't feel bad turning down a job. So if anybody's interested in becoming a scout, if I can throw this plug out there, we're always recruiting, just because it's not listed specifically anywhere. Go ahead and reach out. There's an application. It's just gomillie.com/careers. And you can find the application if that's something that sounds interesting to you. It's a side hustle. It's not like going to pay your light bill or anything, but we love our scouts. They're like little ambassadors for Millie. They're super fans. They are so well connected in their communities that anytime we have something to push out, and we love sharing others, like resources of others, like this conversation and everything that we are kind of involved in and our friends in the space are involved in, we love to share out with our scouts, and then they can share out with their networks. It's really great. So if that sounds appealing to you, and especially if you go and look on our scout page and don't see your area, like if there's not a scout in your area, then we need you. So go ahead and apply. And if there are a couple there, they're probably going to PCS. So go ahead and apply there too. So
I think I can speak for just about every military spouse when I say any help we can get making the PCS experience easier, we will take it. We will pay it forward. We will help anyone that we can. So it's fantastic to know that Millie is there and that your network is growing and that you've got people there to take care of other military families. I just think that's so fantastic.
Yeah, thanks.
So I think we've reached the end of our questions. Kelly, do you have anything else that you want to throw out there? Any other points you want to hit on?
No, we're just so appreciative of this opportunity to reach your audience. We love the USO. You guys are just phenomenal at what you're doing. I know we've talked before about the study that you all did last year on the military spouses specifically, and that just resonated so hard with me. I was like, oh, these are my people. They're paying attention and they know, and they're actually seeing below some of the surface level things. So I just want to publicly thank you guys and the USO for the work that you're doing in that space and helping give military spouses who may be struggling and don't really understand why they're struggling. Because I think a lot of people get lost in this lifestyle is hard. Maybe I'm just not cut out for it. No, lifestyle is hard because it's hard, and that's okay. So let's acknowledge it, and then let's figure out some productive ways through that. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I'm so stoked that we kind of fall into some of that purview. So that's exciting. And the only thing I really wanted to plug was our group. So if you guys are looking for a supportive space on Facebook, and I know people have mixed feelings about Facebook, I'm in every group you can imagine, and they all have some sort of benefit, but we really like our group. So it's called Moving the Millie Way. We host chats like this. We try to host them, once a week or so. So you can get to know some people in the community and just kind of have something to do while you're waiting in the school pickup line. You're scrolling through your feed and you're seeing a bunch of stuff that doesn't necessarily have value. So we want to be able to provide something fun and productive to do while you're on Facebook. Plus, it's a great opportunity to meet people at your new duty station that have kind of a similar mindset, because we kind of try to set the tone in the way that you guys have seen during the chat. So yeah, come join us. It's fun.
I love it. Well, awesome. Thank you for everything that Millie's doing. The USO wants military spouses to know that we are here for you. We're going to do everything we can to help you maintain your identity and find what you might think you've lost. Millie helps you with your move. Come to the USO to find, you know, everything that you could need for the installation and the community around you. And we all work together because we're all here for the military and the families. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Kelly, for being with us. Thank you to Danielle Harrow, who's our behind the scenes producer.
Yes.
With you all. Thank you to Danielle for running the show behind the scenes. And our next Coffee Connection Live will be on July 11th. We'll be talking with Evie King from Independent Wellness. We'll be talking about self-care and how military spouses take care of numero uno. So tune in. Look for the registration links coming soon, and we'll see you all.